If you are a family law firm, I'm about to show you how you can double your sales without paying me, without spending any more money on ads. In fact, you could probably spend less money on ads and make more money. So this is my fun revenue calculator that I have built. And essentially how this thing works is it tracks the main KPIs in your sales funnel. So it tracks how many meetings you're booking on your calendar, it tracks how many of those are showing up, and it tracks how many of those you're actually closing, and then the case value associated with it. And what it does is it spits out a number at the end, which is 4% in this example, and that is gonna contribute to revenue. And so in this example, before I teach you how to double your firm, I'm gonna just talk through this example, right? So what we have is we have 100 leads that have come into the firm, and 30% of them have booked on our calendar. So we have 30 appointments set. 70% of those people are gonna show up. That's just the KPI for show rate. It can be higher, but 70% is a really good number. That means that you have done 21 sales meetings. And then from there, you're closing 20% of those. So you're closing 4.2 clients. And if each of our clients are worth $10,000, you are making 42 grand. Now, how much did it cost to make that 42 grand? I think it's worth mentioning. Let's just say that you paid all for these leads on pay-per-click. 100 leads is gonna cost you around 10K. And you're like, where the heck did you get that number? So generally, nationwide, a nice average for a divorce lead is about $100. I have some states where it's like 80. I have some states where it's like 180 or 200. Just depends on the competitiveness of the state. Most of them are like in that $100 range. The states that stick out to me are like Colorado, Arizona. Those two suck. So if you're there, I'm sorry. But 10K is what you can expect. So in this example, right, it's not too bad. You're making 4-to-1 on your ad spend. So you're spending 10 grand, you're making 40 grand. But again, we're not paying our staff, we're not paying for our offices, we're not putting money in our pocket. Maybe we have a bad month. And so 4-to-1 is great. In fact, like a 3-to-1 is a breakout business in most cases. But lawyers have this unique ability to make way more on their advertising spend, right? So how can we make way more? How can we double your firm? That was the promise I made you, right? So this number right here, the culprit of all the culprits, book rate, right? A 30% book rate is extremely low. The KPI for book rate is actually 70%. Now, before I show you the implications of fixing that single number, what are some reasons that book rate can be low? First reason is you miss your phone calls, right? I think Clio or some sort of organization associated with Clio put out a report that law firms miss 50% of their phone calls. And so if you think about 70% being the KPI, if you miss 50% of your phone calls, bam, you're right around that 30% mark, right? And so that alone can fix all of this. The other reason is maybe you're doing a paid consult, in which case this number would be even lower. It'd be probably 10% or lower. So don't do paid consults. I have another video on that where I like burst into tears because I'm so passionate about that one. The other reasons it could be you're dropping the price on your intake call. So let's say someone calls and they're like, hey, how much is a divorce? And the intake person says, hey, a divorce costs $10,000. And they're like, okay, thank you, bye, right? Because they have no value, they don't know what's involved, they don't know that you do a ton of work, right? There's no sale that's taken place, and so they're just judging you on 10 grand. That's their first number, and usually they're gonna leave, right? The easiest way to get this number to 70% is understand what their matter type is, make sure that you can actually help them, and then book a meeting on the calendar, and ideally do it within a day or two, right? Because then your show rate will go down, which I'll talk about that in other videos. So simple process. In fact, I know that answering services can achieve this number. Literally last week, as of shooting this, I had a client who was at around a 26% book rate, and the sky was falling, right? And we found this out. It took 7 days to identify that 26% was their book rate. It had dropped because the person had quit, pretty much. They hadn't quit yet, but they were quitting. And so they just gave up. As soon as we hired the answering service, this number jumped up to 65%, and it's still going up. I don't know what it is at this moment, but 65% in a matter of like 1 day is what it did. And we have pretty good lead flow, so we know these numbers, right? So that is what we can do to fix it. Now, here comes the fun, exciting part. Survey says, what happens if we change this number to 70? I gotta go to my computer and change it. All right, I just changed that number to 70. So before, the overall closing rate of this funnel was 4%. We were getting 100 leads and we were getting roughly 4 clients, if you remember the 4 clients over here. Now what we've done is we've changed one single number one number, right? We didn't even improve that. We didn't improve that. You can't really improve that. We didn't improve our case value. We just changed one number. And we went from spending 10K to making 100 grand, right? Like, I love talking about this because it's just so cool that you can literally change this one number and double your money, right? And what's cool about this is, let's say that the 4-to-1 that we were talking about earlier, you were actually making money on. Let's say you were profitable on that, which you could be for sure. Like, absolutely, you could be very profitable on that. Now that you're getting 10-to-1, maybe we can go buy that Lambo, baby, right? This is what we want when we run pay-per-click for clients. We want that magic 10-to-1. And so as long as this overall number is in like the 6 to 12% range for all leads, not just pay-per-click. So like if you run a lot of SEO, you're gonna be closer to that number. If you run a lot of pay-per-click, you could be closer to that number. If you're just a killer sales team, you could be really close to that number. But either way, if we do the bare minimum of 10%, and I hate to say bare minimum because you do have to be effective and diligent and consistent, you can get to a 10-to-1, and you just doubled your firm by fixing this one number. So hopefully that was helpful for you. If you have questions about this, let me know.